Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, the podcast, and the Portugal Club. Join us at the Portugal Club. And just a quick mention of the special occasion, which is next Monday. I'm going to be 60 on Monday, and I'm celebrating by encouraging, first and foremost, encouraging myself to learn more Portuguese. But come and celebrate my birthday with me at the Portugal Club, because we're jumping into the 30-day beginners challenge that has been created for us by Maria, and a little bit of help from Vitor, who you know, the Costas. Do please join us on Monday as we begin again our 30-day. I hesitate to use the word boot camp, but it is a immersive and fun, and it will be a community effort with a load of us, I hope, joining together and learning Portuguese and celebrating my birthday from Monday. So please go over to gmpvip.com if you're already a member, and have a look. And if not, sign up. There you go. It's on the screen there, gmpvip.com. Right, this morning's guest, always fascinating talking to Simone Torres Costa. She is a psychologist, author, and coach. Let's give her a nice big round of applause. At some point in a conversation, as you know, these conversations, especially with me hosting and chairing them, can go all over the place. But we will talk about that moment where you're thinking to yourself, probably privately, I'm not sure this is working for me, and what to do about that. Let's give her a nice round of applause and work our way towards that particular condition people can find themselves in. Simone, everybody, she's here. Bon dia.
Bom dia, everyone. Nice to be here.
Simone, tudo bem?
Tudo ótimo. So nice to be here again.
Ótimo, very good. That's a high ranking already this morning. And you of course, in this community, you're synonymous with the integration myth, where we ruffled some feathers a couple of months ago, didn't we? Suggesting that you didn't have to go all in. You had a beautiful model of the two legs, one leg in the culture we're coming from, one leg in the new culture. And I think you were encouraging people to be very kind to themselves and not underestimating the huge impact it can have moving from one country to another. Has anybody stopped you in the street and said, hey, this integration myth, I don't agree? Because they have me.
They have you. Yeah, well, they knock at my office door.
Okay, excellent. Because it was quite a sort of almost sort of semi-controversial topic, wasn't it? Because people do come with those intentions to jump straight in. And that can lead to this sentiment we're speaking of today. How do I say this isn't working? Let me rewind a little bit, and we'll come back to the integration myth. We'll come back to this big question of this morning. Let's introduce you to anybody who hasn't heard of you, who's not a part of this community yet. And you are notably the author of, well, 2 books and a master thesis on some very fascinating subjects that are completely relevant and useful to people in our community. Could you tell us about those, please?
Yes, maybe I can go back to what made me go into this area. You know, we are talking about someone that is originally from Brazil, that ended up in Sweden, ended up in minus 20 degrees in Poland, and then moved to Italy, and then sometime in this journey, there was this sense: is this working for me?
Yeah.
And it wasn't, because the feeling was one, and the expectations that people had. Oh, you must be like a happy person because you live all over the place, and that's so exotic, that's so chic, as we say. And then deep inside, there was all these big questions, and I actually, it made me change my profession. I went into psychology as a consequence. I was a business person. That's my first degree. So living now in my 6th country, Portugal is my 6th country, and I did have my family with me and my kids with me in some of these countries. I realized, hello guys, this is much more complex. You know, it's not so simple to take your family, put in a suitcase and go around.
Yeah.
So let's stop, because I was feeling terrible inside. I know my son was having problem adjusting and so on. So I had to stop, and I went into psychology with my own questions
Amazing.
about what is happening,
Yeah,
what's not working.
Yeah, and so you do know this question, don't you? It would appear, and you quite rightly quizzed me a little bit, like, what does working mean, and what is this in this context? And you've showcased it beautifully there. This, as in the journey to another country, and working. I mean, to me, is like, if it doesn't feel good, it's not working, right? So those would be useful definitions, perhaps.
Yes, I think you are right. We have to make this simple. If
Yeah.
we are talking about mental health, and this is, in the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. We want people not only to live in 6 countries, but thrive, not only survive. And survive is just you're handling it. Thriving is that when you find the balance and you find peace. And let me provoke you, because I know you're turning 60. And
Yes.
when you have these big numbers in front of you, those are the moments why you can even ask yourself, I mean, how would my life have been if I had not moved to Portugal?
Yeah.
How does moving to Portugal made me evolve? And now I have a different story to tell because I am in Portugal. So I see our life journey as the main journey, and then you put in all the countries that you lived in, because you become like pieces of where you have been. Does that make sense?
It really makes sense, and I think both of us can declare that agenda, can't we? That really, the country is one thing that you're moving to, but that's secondary to what can be learn about ourselves. It's about us, isn't it? It's about the individual and their experience of life, as much as it's about moving to a particular culture and country. And those things have their importance, don't they? It's important to understand where you're moving to culturally and hopefully enjoy the culture. But really, all that's changing is how you see things and how you are in terms of your personal growth, personal development, and who you are as a human being. And if I can answer those questions, I will be 60 on Monday. What would it have been like if I hadn't moved here? If I may, fly the flag for Portugal, I'm so glad I moved here, and I'm having a great time here. And I am not immune to the human challenges, the human condition, if you like, because as I'm sure you tell people, wherever you go, there you are. And I would be asking the same questions do you know what? It's a bit like when people say, is it better to be rich or poor? And people say, well, it's probably better to be crying in a luxury car than at a wet bus stop. To me, Portugal is a much better place for me personally to be considering what it is to be a human being and to be living my life than I imagine what it would be like in the country I left back home. So I totally take your point. It's it's a great point. It's a great moment in my life to reflect, and I think it is important when people are considering this whole business of a healthy migration. They focus on what is happening to them as much as they're trying to go on a cultural attunement course.
Yeah, this is wonderful that we agree with this, and we agree on the level of conversation we want to get into. I have this moment in my life that people were asking me, like, why are you not feeling good? Why are you complaining? And so on. I was an expat wife. I mean, all that. And then I was trying to explain to people, and I had this idea that just imagine the most beautiful country in the world and take a picture of that most beautiful country in the world. And that means nothing. That's why I was trying to tell the person, because we have our inner life, our inner journey and sensation. So whatever your eyes is seeing does not necessarily reflect what's inside. So I was in these most beautiful places. Can you imagine Switzerland, in those mountains and all that, and feeling terrible inside.
Oh no! And for other people, this is so interesting, Simon, because there is a new kind of expat guilt in Portugal at the moment that I think is related with this, that makes this worse because, and I'm sure you can shed some light on this. And I listened to a video yesterday. My friend Tony Bryant, the Portugueser, he prefaced what he was saying about his life in Portugal like, I know I'm really privileged. I know I'm very lucky compared to other people, and X, Y, and Z. And that becomes one of the ways people shut themselves up or shut themselves down, isn't it? When, you know, something's not right. And that's undeniable. I mean, that's what we all as human beings know what that's like when things don't feel right. But then to what would it be called? Bypass that by saying, well, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I'm so much, you know, I'll do some gratitude instead. I'm so much more fortunate than other people I see around me. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Whilst I understand that rationalization, I don't think it helps, does it, in the end?
No, it doesn't. But this is a very curious comment that this person has, but it's also very real. Because if you are, even though we use this in our language, if we're feeling good, sometimes we say we are in a good place. Don't we say that?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And this person is probably in a good place in his life where he can actually appreciate. And guilt comes from our egos.
Yes.
And to be in a good place, it does not necessarily mean to be in Portugal or any other country in the world. It means that you find this inner balance. And what do we need to find inner balance? I mean, there's no formula. Every one of us, depending on our inner journey, are going to give a completely different answer. So there's no formula. And I think people want to come and ask me sometimes like, oh, is it good for kids to move with their parents or not? No, just give me a short answer, you know, and we want this short answer. But you and I have also met people that Portugal did not work for. It didn't. They could not adjust and so on. So I think we have to relax and accept the fact that we don't know, accept uncertainty, because moving to a new country, it is uncertain. You can move to the most beautiful country and it will not guarantee your health, your well-being and so on. So let's just relax and have the right expectation. What's the right expectation when we are moving? We can just do the best we can sometimes. And because there are so many uncontrollable factors when you're moving, you don't know who your neighbors are going to be. You don't know if you're going to like them or not. If you don't know if you can learn that new language and so on.
And also, I think part of this kind of expat guilt that's going on in Portugal at the moment is you discover things about the culture you're moving to that are not what you thought they would be. And that creates some sort of conflict or confusion that we might want to process because we're uncomfortable with it. We shall return to this question. It is the topic of today's conversation with Simone here. But can I ask you, Simone, about your three master works and the master's thesis as well? So the two books, first of all, what are they?
Okay, so the first book was for children that are moving with their parents. And the book was half for the kids and half for the parents, them to understand there's a difference in perception. Yes. If you are kids or if you are growing up. So that was the main point. But it was a lovely thing to discover. I didn't know what my son was going through or my daughter was going through when moving. Yes. So that was the first book. It was out of suffering, out of not knowing what to do with my son suffering or my daughter suffering.
And then ultimately, presumably, a discovery for you by going into it instead of avoiding it or ignoring it. You dived into it.
Yeah, that was my turning point, going to psychology, to be honest, as I mentioned before.
Yes. Yeah.
So my second book was moving back to Brazil and not feeling home. and I had to explain to myself what's wrong and what does it mean to be a Brazilian? What's my cultural identity here? with all these pieces of experience I had from the other countries. So I had to open the history book and open up my heart and try to find an explanation that would calm me down, because I was unsettled about who I was as a Brazilian, now going back to Brazil. So that was another book, also out of a lot of elaboration of this inner process.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
So
then
in
and now the
sorry.
master thesis as well.
Yes,
This is fascinating.
yes. So the master thesis, it was like a culmination of everything, because I was looking for a theory that explains why people feel good and why people feel bad in all these transitions and integration or lack of integration. So I
Yes.
was so lucky to find a Canadian author that was specifically doing research about what are the best and worst strategies of integration and adaptation. He called psychosocial adaptation. That's a big word for just feeling good when you're moving. So I was really digging into all that to, first of all, to explain to myself, I was using the wrong strategy.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so even at that point, after authoring 2 books, this was a deeper illumination or discovery for you, was it?
It was because, first of all, the theory only talks about our country of origin and the local country.
Yeah.
And I was suddenly in these expat communities that gave me a sense of a third culture. And there's actually a whole area called the third culture kids.
Yes.
And that explains, okay, it's like people living in Portugal. Most of the people we know, they are in this third culture. They belong to those that don't belong.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they don't belong to Portugal. They don't belong to where they come from anymore at some point.
Yeah.
So where do I belong? And belonging, we have to remember, it gives mental health. It gives peace. When I belong somewhere, I calm down. I get off this alert mode, as we call it. So belonging is here crucial. And I belong to those who don't belong. I belong to the expat community. I belong to the Silver Coast community, and that's okay. But the theories that I was finding in the beginning did not explain that. So we're all good.
Amazing. So I think it makes you eminently well placed to answer this question. Then and you've been through this. You've spoken this morning of your experience of asking yourself this question, and you help others deal with this question. And the reason why I kind of focused on it today is because I think sometimes people don't know this is the crystallization of what they're feeling, perhaps. And it's embarrassing. I think it's embarrassing, actually. Oh, that I'll own it. Whenever I'm in this, whenever I've come face to face with, I don't think my move is working. It is embarrassing and awkward and difficult, isn't it? Because it was all about a massive dream and a process to bring happiness and fulfillment and this golden result that you're looking for. And when it's the opposite of that, it's like, well, how the hell do you start a conversation? How do you own it? How do you acknowledge it? And who can you go to for help with it?
This is a brilliant question, Carl. I mean, acknowledging something is not working is the beginning of a beautiful journey sometimes, because we realize that we bring ourselves in the suitcase when we move. Yes. Which means, oh my God, I thought I could leave that part of me somewhere else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, indeed. With the luggage comes the baggage. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we bring our fears, we bring our hopes, we bring our dreams in a different country. Of course, we are giving ourselves a chance to reposition, to find a more evolved part of us, and it helps the process of looking at our previous life from outside. And
Yeah.
this is the first thing that helps. Okay, let me just look at my life, the one that I'm bringing in this luggage, from a different perspective. Only that, I mean, I can have many sessions of coaching or therapy just on that. I mean, what is it that was pushing me away from that life? What is it that is dragging me? What is attractive in Portugal that I am trying to find here? So there's so many beautiful, deep discussions in this process. So your question raises a lot of things, but I think the most important is it's okay if it's not working. That's the beginning of our inner work.
Yeah. So perhaps get more comfortable. I mean, getting comfortable is somewhere down the process, but be more comfortable with owning and acknowledging that state or that feeling, if you like. And does it help to say it out loud? Does it help to find somebody who you could say it to?
I am 100% sure it helps. Of course, we started by telling our friends something is wrong, something is not consistent here. You know, cognitive dissonance has become a nice term to say there's something not right here, and that's okay. And it's also okay to look for help. You know, we sometimes want to come across as intelligent, bright parents or people and so on, but our soft spot, you know, brings a powerful potential for growth.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by the soft spot? Like the inner reflection and the vulnerability?
Well, I call soft because in transition we have hard challenges and soft challenges.
Okay. Yeah.
So hard are the visa, the housing, the school, are the concrete things. And the soft is how I'm feeling, is everything we are discussing here, and how prepared I am to really confront another culture. So it is soft because it brings up all my limitations, all my fears, and culture shocks do that to us, because there is culture shock on the outside and there is a self shock in the inside, and this self shock is, whoa, the new culture makes me reflect my own values, and that is the self shock.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it, because we're very comfortable now, and I mean, it's funny, isn't it, how some of these sort of psychological terms, which were presumably purely academic at first, make their way into everyday speech, right? So culture shock is one of them, isn't it? It's like, it's definitely a thing, culture shock. Everyone can relate to that. But the self shock, which is the same thing, really, isn't it? Because culture shock suggests, doesn't it, that it's what's going on outside and what I'm experiencing is doing that to me. But that reframe of self-shock is like, okay, this is what's happening on the inside as a result of finding myself in these new circumstances.
Yes, I can tell you that I had specifically one client that when I explained this difference, it made a huge sense. It was like, you know, a huge aha moment, that
Beautiful.
He was suffering from the inside and did not understand what was happening. All the efforts that we unconsciously are making when we are adapting, re-evaluating our values and what we thought it was right and wrong. This is happening inside, and that's the self-shock.
Superb. So in conclusion, then, it's always fascinating talking to you. The time is barreling past us here as I get closer to my significant birthday. How do I say this isn't working? I guess you say it by saying it, right? You find someone in which it might be, it might land well, and your discomfort can be managed sensitively, and to say it, basically to say it. And it's funny, isn't it? I think we probably all have experience of difficult conversations, the ones that we put off, that when we actually have them, it's like, oh, that's such a relief. And you know, the person you said it to might say, why didn't you say something before, you numpty?
Exactly.
It's like, well, I felt awkward about it.
And there's something very important about the work you are doing is you are creating a space for people not to feel alone,
Yes.
because there is not working for many people, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's our humanity coming out there.
And it's such a paradox, isn't it? Because it's, Good Morning Portugal is all about having a great time in Portugal. We celebrate that. That's what we want. That's our desired outcome. To love our lives. Excuse me, to love our lives and to like our lives specifically in Portugal. However, if it isn't working, it's good to talk about that, and I think that can be done sensitively and joyously, and that's in that we find fun and friendship. We can ultimately find great things, deeper fulfillment. We can do it in a light-hearted way, and we can just sort of go deeper and find more space in which to come back to that full circle of like, I do enjoy and love my life here, but if there's a stone in the shoe, it's best to stop, take your shoe off, and get that stone out of there, right?
Yeah, and it is always a raw material for growth. If everything is working all the time, I mean, we wouldn't learn anything in life, right? If something is not working, there's something there for you to look at. And there's something inside of us that we will discover. So you're transforming a challenging into an opportunity of growth. I mean, that sounds a little bit superficial, but it is.
I'm with you. Definitely. I would see, as well as all the wonderful experiences you can have in this country, that the very fact of being here or anywhere is an opportunity to grow personally as well. And there's definitely aspects of Portugal that will give you that. For sure.
We know that.
If you want to find Simone's books and reach out to her and talk with, it's not working, Simone. Can I speak to you? You can find her at torrescosta.com. And I've got a cunning plan to set up a new series of brunch talks here in Sao Martinho de Porto, where I'm hoping Simone will come and join us and talk to us about the subject in a little more of a leisurely space where we can unpack things and chat together in the beautiful setting, hopefully, of the Storyteller's Palace. I'm hoping Marco and Miguel will get back to me on that, and we'll have a lovely brunch session there and unpack this and other wonderful subjects that are basically about enjoying our lives fully here in Portugal. So thank you so much, Simone. Always great to talk to you, and look forward to having brunch with you sometime in the company of others who are considering such big questions in their lives.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much again for having me.
It's such a pleasure. See you next month. Take care. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao. Bom dia.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need